G'day, Bob here at Weldnrust. As you can see, I'm kind of in a recline position because we got some work involved here. Down here, we got to put a down tube in, cross tube, and probably some foot peg mounts. Anyways, we need something to hold the battery with, and we need a little bit better structural integrity than what we already got here. So that's the plan for today, and keep watching. Who knows, we might both learn something. Alrighty, let's start hacking this thing up. Now you get a better view of what I need to cut and what I need to keep. You can see this and this are the same material, so it's cutting along this, up and around here, and this seam up in here. And I like to cut most of this out if I can. Just get rid of this complete mess of contraption. Yeah, the real nice thing is I've still got all this structure in here, so I'm not worried about weakening it any. So I can go ahead and cut the other side as well and then clean everything all up before I decide what I'm going to do for the tube coming down here. So let me show you what you can do with about an hour or so and a whole bunch of old grinding discs. Here, that's what I went through. So start with the little pile of tabs. Biggest one was the frame horn. And the funny part is, once I cut it away, I started grinding it. I don't know exactly how this thing is made, but it looks like this and this are one piece here, but they're definitely two pieces here. So somehow is joined in here. I don't know exactly how it's put together, and I really don't care because it doesn't matter. I do know I'm probably going to put new gusseting in here to join it with a new down tube. But I wanted to show you something because I'm gotten a little bit fanatical in the sense of cutting off anything that is not going to be used is getting cut off tab-wise. The ones that were here, ones at the back, pretty much everything all over here. You can see by the new pile of scrap. So I'm trying to save ounces here. Think in terms of bicycle, trying to keep weight down as much as possible without sacrificing strength. I'd like to welcome you to the world of engineering compromises. I know I wanted a larger tube down in here. I'm using a 1x2 tubing down here. This is 2-inch tubing. And I wanted a single down tube, more for aesthetics than anything, and plus of ease of manufacture. However, and this is where the compromise comes in. For the battery box, the outside of the box is going to be around 16 inches. Right now, I've got about 17. That's half an inch price. That doesn't leave me a whole lot of room, which means I really can't go further back here. And as you can see, this isn't perfectly vertical, but it's getting close to it. And vertical doesn't look right. So you want a slight angle, more for appearance than anything else. But again, got to have enough room for the box. So this is now going to be the compromise position. That's where it's going to have to sit, unfortunately. As much as I would like to have it different, but I'm going to be pushing my luck for trying to get batteries in, because what would really suck is if I had this all welded up and then try to get a battery in and it don't fit. Then I'm really screwed. So this is where we're at. Oh, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to notch and have some 1-inch tube come out of here, and that's where the foot pegs are going to mount. So, time to get cutting. Okay, I suppose I should explain something here. I found a piece of metal in my scrap pile, 1 inch wide, Problem was it wasn't perfectly straight. So that's what these little marks are here for. Little bits of the hammer. Little taps on the hammer would actually straighten the piece out. So the thing is, I do need a straight edge to do my next part of the project. Okay, one more trickier aspects of this, and I'm not gonna sure if you're gonna see this on the camera, how I'm gonna see it, but the trick for me is to straighten the front wheel in alignment with the frame. I got the center line spine, and the trick is for me to keep this wheel and the spine of the frame in alignment. And here is where it gets interesting, because my trick now is to attach the strip. So we now have a center line, extended center line. On the aligning strip. What I'm trying to do is to get this piece tacked on so it's running right on the center line of the bike. The center line is going to be determined by where they are sitting on the with relation to the center of the wheels. So it's going to be a little bit of fiddling about. This. There we go. So the fun part's going to be trying to get everything right where I want it. So that's going to end up somewhere there. Got center line in the center of that tire, center line in the center of that tire. Now it's just a question of tacking it in. Now how much is this thing going to pull? Just going to find out. Not a whole lot if I'm pulling it up here. Still got a bit of wiggle room. Oops. They got variations of less than a 16th. I'm not going to worry too much about that. So, my best guesstimate is how I can measure it is about 42 degrees. Problem is I might be limited with the saw to 45 degrees. So I guess we'll see what I can do with the saw, see how far I get it, and if not, just leave some extra material and grind it by hand after. Well, I'm impressed. It looks like this saw blade moves more like 50 degrees than, oh, sorry, it would be 50 degrees or 40 degrees. Anyways, off 45, but definitely looks like I'll be able to do it. However, what I don't know is my saw blade going to be long enough to cut it all? We're gonna find out. Oh, that's weird. Actually, I think that's pretty good. Yeah, we'll see how it fits. Okay, that's as close as I'm gonna take it for this, because what I need to do is I gotta put a notch in the center to align with the what do you call that thing? The weld seam. So that way the part will go around the weld seam instead of trying to have a big gap in there or grind off the weld seam to make this to fit. I'd rather not do that. So I'll put a couple of notches in here and then there'll be a little bit of grinding, fitting. I've got a little bit of gap, and for structural with MIG, you're better off with some gap because you want good penetration. I want strength here. So that gap's not gonna hurt me. You're talking about 1/16, maybe 3/32 of an inch. Well, for TIG welding, that would definitely not do, but for MIG, yeah, that little bit of gap is good. So yeah, I'm happy with the fit up on that one. I just gotta clean off some of the rust and some of the paint, and I can start tacking her up. Okay, the welding thus far. What I did here, short little weld, stronger than the tack, but if I have to, I can cut in with a cutoff wheel and cut them off. Same as down here, and those are still tacked. Okay, now, we've got 3 cardboard patterns. These 2 can be the same. These have to be different. You gotta remember, this has got or used to have a shaft drive, so these are not symmetrical. So that means when that's one, that's gonna go in here. And this one's gonna go here. The reason we have to do this is because if we don't gusset here and gusset here, this shaft, just with a bushing in it, will probably flex and probably bend the shaft, and we don't want to risk that. So I need to strengthen it from here to here, keep the shaft from bending. Let's see if I can show you what's going on here. My plan was going to have a gusset here. Going to have one in here. Now the problem is, you got one here, one here. They're not at 90 degrees to each other, more like 120. So I'm really questioning the strength going up and down in this direction. So my plan is I am going to make a couple more and have them fit somewhere in here. So they're approximately 120 degrees apart, and I think that should be strong enough. I'm going to point out here, perfection's not, it really doesn't need to be perfect as far as placement goes, because they're not symmetrical anyway, so it's not as if they're going to stand on like a sore throat. So it's whatever looks pretty. And here we go, tacked in place. You know, I really like the old school choppers when you're leaning on the side stands, they lean right over. I always like that look. So to replicate this, I got to figure out where the side stand's gonna go. So we got it propped up, but the stand itself, I think it's gonna sit, if I can show you, somewhere around here. The one thing I'm gonna have to do, you can see it, is I'm gonna have to change this angle slightly. I'll just heat it, bend it a little bit, tweak it down about 5 degrees or so. So when it sits, it'll sit flatter. But I think that is about where it needs to go. And the neat thing is, I'm using the stock length stand. I don't even have to change the length of it. And the important thing is, not that I'm ever gonna use them, that it's not gonna interfere with the pedals when I'm folded over. I can still pedal it. Well, in theory, I could still pedal it. In practice, well, we're not sure about that one yet. Before I get too carried away, I'm going to show you the kickstand mount. Now the trick is, the pin has to fit in the hole with a little bit of clearance. When the thing comes on here, screw it in. When the kickstand goes down, it stops on here. That's why the hole placement's critical. Not that critical, but critical enough that it comes here, it stops. When it comes back, it stops. I still got to cut it off, and that's the other trick I do. I usually do all my features machining on a larger piece, and then when that's all done, then I cut it off. Makes it a little bit easier to work with. So the spring mount, well, we'll have to figure that one out once the stand is on. Anyways, that's enough on this one. I'll cut her off and start tacking her on. All right, I got the end of the kickstand weighted down to hold it in its position. Bike sitting with the post holding the thing up to the lean I want. And all I'm going to do now is give it 2 tacks in here. I will point out something. You can see it. I put a little bit of extra notch in here, so when the kickstand comes back, it comes back a bit further. Hopefully it'll be in line with this. But I won't know for sure until we tack it in and I lift the bike up and put it back in the up position, because right now I can't check it in the up position because that thing is in the way. Okay, check it out. That is where I want it. Of course, the spring, when it gets in there, I gotta still mount that. But now, I've got all kinds of room to put weld in without a problem. Okay, next on the agenda, we gotta figure out spring anchor position. Actually, it's not that hard. Kickstand's here or here, and the idea being is that the spring holds it in either position, which means at the halfway point is when we have our most tension. And that's when the spring, pivot point, and the anchor point all are in alignment. It's not dead nuts perfect, but it does need to be somewhere in here, so when the spring is actually at its weakest point at either here or there, it still has to have enough strength when it's over here to pull. So, said this is not rocket science. It's not having to be absolutely perfect. It just needs to work. The trick is not to have too much spring bind, so I have to be a little bit further down, not up towards here. So that's going to tell me right here. I think I'm just going to use some, I'm not sure what I got. I got to get some wire or something to make a little hook in here. So this has something to hook onto. Yeah. Okay. Okay, here you go. A little tab. Not much to it. Flat bar. Hole drilled in it and bent at the edge of the hole. Kind of looks like it was done at a factory anyways. I guess that's what I was trying to do. So next, figure this out, is I need to have enough tension on the spring to hold it in place. So it's going to end up somewhere around here. All right, I'll give it a couple of tacks and try it out. Before I do any more, I think we'll be all right. Alternative, shortest position is when it's in locked. Longest is when it's halfway. And get short again. That should work. Yeah, there we go. Oh, look at that. That's exactly what it's supposed to do. Perfect. Well, guys, that is it for this one. And if you enjoyed, please like and subscribe, and we will see you on the next one. Bye for now.